Hello, everyone. I think welcome to another episode of speaking to some of the best content marketing leaders globally. And I'm honored and have a pleasure to kind of host Josh Garrison from Apollo.io. On his LinkedIn, as his designation, Josh calls himself as the VP of Content Marketing and Customer Education, particularly. But I think he has much more to do than just that. So Josh, I'll first of all thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
That is super good, and thanks for being here for such a short notice and just agreeing to be a part of this.
Of course, it's an honor.
Yeah. So Josh, I think let's begin with who's Josh Garrison. I mean, if you want to kind of know you better, of course, what do you do in your jobs? But
Sure.
You as a person, where do you grow up? What happened in all your life? You've had a fantastic story of being a salesperson to being a broker in that case, to stockbroker basically.
Yep.
From there to going to find one company. You found a company, successfully sold it. Found another company, failed
it. Yep.
Then entered marketing.
Yep.
Large enterprise. Now leading marketing teams, selling back to the salespeople. So life comes like a full circle for you. I think would like to hear from you. That's more like the introduction question I have, but
Sure.
easiest to begin with.
Yeah. So you said it. We can move on. No. So who am I? So I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, the home of the Alamo. For anybody who doesn't know.
Yeah.
And that was a great place to grow up. My dad was an entrepreneur. He was in the Army. He got out of the Army and then had like a series of businesses. So he was a locksmith. He built a locksmithing company. He sold that. Then he started a string of sort of odd small companies.
Yeah.
And that was where I got my start in sales. I was 13 years old. My dad owned a cafe. We sold Italian ice, which is basically kind of like a sherbet almost. And we would go to all of the big events in San Antonio, like the Jazz Festival, and there's this thing called like Fiesta and Niosa. Anyway, so we would go to these, we'd rent out a stall or a booth, and my dad would send me out into the crowd with samples of Italian ice to be like the hawker, like to bring people into the booth. So that was like my first sales job, right? And fast forward several years, I ended up going to college in Utah, and I worked full time when I was in school in a commission sales role as well. So I did that, and now I kind of just like made my bones in sales. So I went to school in Utah, did my 4 years there, ended up landing in the Bay Area working in Forex, so like the very grimiest underbelly of the financial markets.
Wow.
And did that for about a year, and then I realized, like, hang on, I'm in the technology capital of the world, and I'm working in finance. I'm very dumb. Let me let me get out of that.
Hard realization. After realization.
Slap me in the face. So let me get out of that. Let me get into something different, and landed at this company. There was a Y Combinator backed company called Indenaro, doing sales, and I did really well there. And that was kind of in that like early wave of sales technology tools, like what is now Apollo, but what was then Zen Prospect. And so in an interesting moment of kind of foreshadowing, I took a call with these couple of guys who were in Y Combinator, Tim and Ray, and they had this product, Zen Prospect, that they wanted to sell to Indenaro. Well, we ended up buying it, becoming a power user. And then almost 10 years later, I took an interview with Tim for the job that I have now. And he was like, we haven't talked in years. And I was like, I know, I remember, and we kind of became full circle. But so I did sales at Indenaro, and I left that company to start my own company. And that was pretty successful. I had a business partner. We grew really fast. And I think my business partner realized, he came to me one day and he was just like, hey, I realized I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not good. And he was like, yeah, I just want to have, a small business that I own. And I had ambitions to grow it, much bigger. So we sold it, found an acquirer that day. It's still my biggest sale. I sold the business off a cold call. It was a great deal. So we sold the company, and I was left with, what I said at the time was like, I have enough from this to do one of anything. I could do one like I could make a movie, or I could start a company, or I could do kind of whatever. I get one shot of what I want. So At the time, I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids or anything. I was still in my late 20s. So I started this company called Spot Me Lending. And the idea with Spot Me was, can I disrupt what I view as a very kind of dirty market, which is the payday lending market. It's kind of like the lowest level of lending in the United States, like micro lending.
Right.
Really high interest rates, really kind of predatory practices. So the idea was, let's build an app, let's build a proprietary underwriting system, let's put machine learning to use. So I enlisted a co-founder who worked at a bank and had experience in that. Assembled a team, a designer and another engineer, and I kind of did product, and we built the application, we launched it. It had enormous traction really early on, like with no paid ads or anything, just kind of like the organic marketing I did for it. We had 10,000 downloads in like the first couple weeks. We had over 5,000 people actually apply for a loan. And my whole strategy was like, let me build up this big backlog of loan applications and then go hit the ground and raise some money. And when I met with 20, 30 VCs, and not a single one of them would touch it. They were like, hang on, you want to lend money to poor people? Get out of here, man.
Yeah.
They laughed me out of the room. So ran at that for a while, and then kind of realized I needed to let it go. So kind of shut it down, and I landed a job at this company, Building Connected, doing marketing. And that was great. That was a great role for me. And I kind of stayed there for a while, got promoted, into a growth marketing role. And that's where I really, I've been using content throughout my whole career to grow various enterprises and businesses and side projects and whatever I was doing. And that's really where I started to do it more in a more methodical way at Autodesk. So I had a portfolio of 3 products, had to bring in somewhere north of $30 million a year for these product lines, and I had access to a budget and like a pretty big marketing team that I could kind of pull together to do whatever I wanted or whatever would make sense. And at the same time, I found myself somehow writing keynote speeches for the CEO of Autodesk with like a really small team of writers, 2 other writers.
Super good.
It was really, really good experience.
Yeah.
So I did that for 3 years, had a lot of success there, landed at this company, Teamflow, where I led all of go-to-market, and then got a call from a former boss of mine who was like, hey, I just landed this job at Apollo, leading all of marketing. I need somebody to do content. You're the guy. And so that's kind of like my work life, my life outside of work. I write comic books. I own a comic book marketplace. It's called Backlit Comics.
Super.
So that's like the second big software product that I built after Spot Me. So I love to tell stories. I'm married. I have a little daughter. I have 2 cats. My wife and I live here in the Bay Area. And yeah, I've sort of found my way into this role that kind of combines what I've learned as an entrepreneur and as a salesperson, as a marketer. Now at Apollo.
The inner Josh is ideally a kid who's a creator broadly, selling comic books on one front, creating content on the other. There's a part of hustle on the other, basically. So yeah, good for you. Kudos.
Yeah.
I think great, Josh. I think great experiences. Josh, I'm also very curious to know. I mean, given I'm not going to go like into the nitty-gritties of the questions that everyone asks around, I want to be very focused on asking you some very interesting things that are very specialized for you, right?
Sure.
You are in one of those companies like Apollo. I can tell you, we as Pepper, all kudos, Apollo has been a great enabler in the kind of business we do at Pepper as well, right? And I've used a lot of premium access of Apollo in the past. So I've been tracking Apollo for the last like over 4 years now, right? But the biggest challenge that companies face, and I think as individuals, the salespeople face, is they don't know how to use the product really well.
Yeah.
The other problem is your product might be able to still give them maybe the contact details of the person, but it still doesn't guarantee the lead, right? In this case. So, and you rightly said, right, you have your role as also part of it is customer marketing, basically. Yeah. I'd like you to kind of dive deeper into, and this is for a lot of companies who will be watching this, who come from the PLG side, the product-led growth side of things, right? Where there's not a sales team who's actually selling. What is that one playbook you figured out? And maybe if you're not figured out, you are figuring out. So what are the learnings from what you're doing right now? When it comes to building the entire customer education.
Yeah.
But also somewhere on the crux of entertainment, because you ought to kind of make your learning fun, right? So
For sure.
I want you to kind of give us like a deeper dive of that.
Yeah, great question. So I would say like you kind of hit on an important topic right at the end there, which is that it's important to understand who you're competing with for attention. You're competing with Netflix. You're competing with Disney Plus, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit. You're competing with whole massive enterprises who have really smart people figuring out how to get and keep people's attention.
Yeah.
So what that means for us as marketers is, we have a job, or educators or whatever, like we have a job to tell a story or to convey some information. And we have to hold people's attention long enough to get that across and for them to find it actionable. So what we've done at Apollo is kind of like two things. One, we have a mantra, which is that any piece of content we make, somebody has to engage with it, and by the end of it, know how to make more money. That's a really high bar. And so the amount of things that I reject that we don't put out the door is actually pretty high, because we only, we hold that bar, and that trains your audience to expect quality, and then they trust you. And so they'll kind of buy in. In terms of the nitty gritty of how we actually do it, so one of the first programs I stood up at Apollo was a webinar program. So we have, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of users, this big email database. And as you mentioned, really tiny sales team and an even smaller kind of
You
success
have all
team.
the database.
Yeah, we've got everybody. We got everybody.
You got everybody.
So one thing I had done really successfully at Autodesk was a webinar program. And what I kind of learned is a format that works really well is like first of all, there's no fluff. There's any fluff you have, cut it out. Take 15 minutes, run through slides, and run through what do you need to know conceptually. What is the high level? What are the concepts? What are the strategies we're going to talk about? Roll straight from that into, I'm going to show you how to do it in the product. Roll straight from, that's 15 minutes. So we're now 30 minutes in. Straight from that, 15 minutes of Q&A, that's a 45-minute session. So we had done webinars at Apollo before, but with varying degrees of success. When I came into Apollo, I kind of took that program over and did everything top to bottom. I made the content, I wrote the landing page, I wrote the emails, I was the presenter, I made the deck, I just sort of did all of it. And we ended up, the first webinar I did, we broke the software we were using. We had more people try and come live than the software could handle. So we had literally like over 1,000 people emailing us like, I'm trying to get in and I can't. And we went from, biggest webinar ever, 2,500 registrants, we broke 10,000 in pretty short order. So that program really sort of set the tone for like what is customer education at Apollo, and it like tapped into this reality that everybody wants time, free time with an expert. You got to find a way to be able to do that at scale for PLG. So the webinar program came first. Then the next thing that we stood up that was really successful was Apollo Academy. So let me take that kind of content, let me reformat it a bit so that it'll play really well on YouTube or on demand, right? And it's a different format. So you can't just take a webinar and post it on YouTube. Though we've done that, some of them have worked really well. The best content is tailored for the channel. And it was a similar strategy. It's like, what are the topics? What are the questions? What are the customer issues? What are the problems that people run into? Let me go make content about each of those things made by an expert. So it's not just like a marketer. Like I've got some chops in sales, so I know what I'm talking about. I can make that content. We can put it out there. And I spent like a year doing that. And as I was doing that, like I'd stand up the program, I'd create like what is good. And then I'd hire someone in under me to take it over and to kind of do a lot of the work behind the scenes. And then when we needed me to come in and be the face of it and like pull actually the content together, I could do that really short order. So I'm not sure if this is answering your question, but basically this is the format the structure that we followed, and we've stood up numerous programs. So we have, the one thing I realized is like when new people sign up to your tool, if you're a PLG company, your product needs to be good enough that people can figure out how to use it.
Yeah.
But no matter how good your product is and how simple it is to use, people are going to get some way into that journey and they're going to have a question.
Yeah.
And some people are going to be comfortable hitting up your support team and getting answers in chat. Most people, we live in an age of instant gratification. They want to ask a question and get an answer in real time. So we actually stood up a program where I hired a salesperson who I've worked with before, somebody who's really good. Twice a day, every day, he does a live training on Apollo that's free. And so
every single day.
And it's not recorded. Every single day, twice a day, live training. And the reason that we do it that way, sure, I could have just recorded one and just played it twice a day and did it in 30 minutes. But the unique value is people being able to ask questions in real time and getting an answer in real time. And what that does for your company, for your product, for your brand perception, for the experience people have with it is through the roof. So what I would say is as a PLG company, it's product-led growth. It's not product-only growth. So you have to understand that product is going to get it's going to get the customer in the door. It's going to get the customer to the first question, to the first roadblock. Then you have to find a way with people or content or some combination to bring them further into the ecosystem and help them be successful.
Just a quick touch. This is very interesting that you said you literally have one single person. Very honestly, if I look at any company, even an upcoming growing company, people speak a lot about customer feedback and prospect feedback and all of it. This is the most raw way of getting customer feedback live in this case.
Every day.
How many people would kind of join this every day?
We have about 100 people per session twice a day. So in August, we trained well over 3,000 people in the month of August, and he took a vacation during that time.
So broadly, you're saying that on a monthly basis, you guys almost cater to around 3,000 to 4,000 people every month.
Yeah, and growing.
And that to over 12 months. So almost in an year, 50,000 people, one-on-one, single touch point on how to be successful salesperson is what you're trying to rectify. That is super. I mean, that's a learning for all companies to this is real centricity at the heart of the consumer.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, when I joined Apollo, no one thought this was possible. The feedback that I got in an executive meeting, I asked the question, I was like, well, we have this issue of people want to learn how to use the tool. Sales is hard. Why don't we just hire people to do that? And the response was it's not economical. And my response to that was I don't believe you. I think the benefits are, you're underestimating the value. So I was given the runway and the ability to make this happen. And it took some work. I had some engineers, we use a product called SQL.io, shout out to Owana and the team there. We built into the Apollo application this webinar platform where you can join the webinar from one click within the app. You don't have to leave, you don't have to get redirected, you don't have to register, just click, joins it. Yeah. And so we built it in the app. We put a banner in for new users. Hey, free live training starting in 1 hour, the countdown timer. And then the ROI is insane. It's through the roof.
And in your category, right? So I've been a salesperson at heart, right? So I've done sales for most of my life till now, right? I want to understand also. So as salespeople, sales is hard. Sales is it's a complete game of passion after a point in time, basically.
Yeah.
And salespeople are glamorous at the end of it, right?
So they want to be.
They want to be glamorous.
Yeah.
Right? That's a job in general, right? I've seen this category very closely from a search angle as well, and there are a lot of searches that exist.
Yeah.
Purely from the lens of how companies like Salesforce, companies like Gong have been built upwards, basically.
Yeah.
Organic search is a big part of it, right? How do you also look at marrying this customer intent, particularly of education in that case, to search as a perspective also, and at the same time also catering to help content for existing customers? Because now it lies at the adjuncture of three of these things, right?
Exactly.
So how do you also do? Because I've seen Apollo's SEO is also good. I mean, you guys have a decently good SEO, right? So
it's a great question. So I will say, we do drive a really healthy amount of organic search, but probably not in the way you would expect. The biggest property for us for organic search is our knowledge base, which has well over 250 articles and is available to anybody. It's not gated. It's just out there, and it's indexed on Google. And the second biggest driver of organic search for us is YouTube. And I'm only recently now focused on this traditional sort of organic search SEO playbook, that most companies have run. But the reason that we did it that way, to your point, was my initial problem to solve when I started at Apollo was not go grow the top of the funnel. The top of the funnel is very strong. So that was a good problem for, that was a good situation to walk into as a marketer. The problem that I had to solve was we've got all these people coming in and they want to know how to use the tool. They need more education. So we focused on building and optimizing our knowledge base to be almost like the analogy I gave the team was like when you buy a car, you get an owner's manual. And the owner's manual is designed very intentionally to help you in the front. There's an index or a table of contents. You can find the page with the answer to your question almost instantly. And your job is to get in, get out. How do I change a tire? Read it, put it down, and go do the thing. That's what our knowledge base has to be. It has to be indexed. It has to be really easy to navigate. And so the rule that I gave the team was 2 clicks. Somebody has to be able to find any piece of content in the knowledge base in 2 clicks or less. And the team was like, that's insane. And the feedback we got from people was like, it doesn't look pretty, and it's not, look at other teams, like they use these beautiful designs. And I was like, you all misunderstand the goal of the knowledge base. So we redesigned it. We built out a lot more articles. We have, like I said, well over 250. And what happened was we now get over 1 million organic hits a quarter. And people who don't use Apollo are searching how to find leads, how to make phone calls, how to do this, how to do that. An Apollo knowledge base article comes up, and instead of reading a blog post that's, some fluff about like B2B leads are the most important thing that you can do, they get an article that's like, click here, get your list in Apollo instantly. And there's a little button in the top right-hand corner that says sign up. And that's it. That's the only, on the whole knowledge base, there's no other call to action. There's no advertising. There's no anything. Just one button, sign up. That works really, really well. And it's just not, we have a unique structure. Most companies don't have their technical writing and knowledge base team sit within content, but it's all interconnected. So we focus there. That's done really well for us. Simultaneously, I think an insight that I have that I share broadly with the content community is that the highest intent search type is a YouTube search. So you've kind of heard like the biggest search engine in the world is Google. The second biggest search engine in the world is YouTube. Like that's real. That's true. And then when you understand how people learn today, when I need to do something like right now, I don't Google it, I YouTube it. I want to watch a video for how to do it. And that's with anything. Like if you want to hang a shelf, if you want to cook a meal, like whatever you want to do, it's YouTube. So one of the first teams I built out at Apollo was a video team. And I put a person's full-time job on YouTube. Their job is to make videos, edit other videos that we like, edit other content that we have, monitor the space, like put content out on YouTube. And that has paid off for us. So, for example, if you search email deliverability now into Google, Google surfaces YouTube videos in the search engine results page. Second video is Apollo, email deliverability checklist. That would have been really hard probably to try and rank for in just like a Google search, right? But yeah, so we've kind of approached it like a little unconventionally. With those 2 pillars performing well, I'm now starting to stand up the more traditional, intent-led Google search. Yeah.
No, very interesting. I think YouTube, I agree to you 100% on YouTube. Although it's the second biggest search engine, but it's the fastest growing search engine, of course, with that pace. Also, I think with YouTube now opening the search APIs particularly, where you can actually go and find the kind of keyword research and intents across the board and a lot more products being built on top of it, it's definitely to be the next place on it. In fact, on YouTube, I think my knowledge also has been, and we've been doing YouTube for a lot of our customers across the board.
Yeah.
There's one part of YouTube search, which I think you've cracked really well. There's another part of YouTube discovery.
Yeah.
Which is actually how, if someone has watched one video of mine while on search, the next time they open YouTube,
right,
where do I appear? Because if I know that guy is interested in a particular thing, will they be able to kind of watch content around that? And then that content on discovery has to be very much in the lines of edutainment, because we also want to kind of hold that person. Again, we're fighting with the likes of the Netflixes of the world over there, right?
Exactly.
So it's definitely being the best next big thing. I think I've heard a lot of B2B companies now focusing on that. A couple of case studies I really saw well to be done on YouTube were like that for Monday.com.
Yep.
Basically, they've done really good job on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
I feel that. But a lot of people catching up that game. Super. And I also want to kind of focus a bit more on this entire advent of AI coming up.
Sure.
Because you guys are again an AI company. The first time I used Apollo, I remember there was no AI. It was a database company basically.
Yep.
I used to always think how it works. It took me almost 2 years to understand how Apollo works. And I used to think you guys have like large Excel sheets at the back end
Yep.
in which there's all data and I just go and I find it.
Nope.
But it took me almost like a couple of years of my early days in founder days particularly to kind of understand how you guys work. But now with the advent of AI, I think a lot more augmentation in your sales process has come in, right?
Sure.
I want to focus more on how you're using generative AI in the marketing teams overall.
Okay.
Are you using it as a service? Are you using some products over there?
Yep.
Also, just wanting to understand. I mean, are you also trying to use it to augment the speed of your content creators internally? Just overall. I mean, this is for fellow marketers to
Yep.
just understand.
Cool. So AI, hot topic. Okay, so in marketing, here's my hot take on AI, at least as it is today. If you're not a good writer, AI is a really powerful tool for you.
Yeah.
If you're a good writer, which I only hire good writers, AI is like a moderately useful tool. It's not revolutionary. I can say for me, like I am very fast. I can write with a high degree of quality. I can make videos very quickly. I'm a good extemporaneous speaker. It would take me longer to prompt engineer something useful with AI than it would to just do it. That's me. Not everyone is like that,
Yeah.
right? So how do we use it? Now, there's a big caveat. That's for like text prompting. For image prompting, I think AI is incredible and then a
Yeah.
huge unlock. So across my team, I have 4 teams at Apollo. I have a video team, content team, the knowledge-based team, and the academy team. We have a subscription to ChatGPT, to Midjourney, to Runway, and then to Descript would be like the 4 sort of AI-empowered tools that we use. So I'll run through those. So Midjourney's AI image generation, and it's really cool for sure, like images and decks and things, but it's also, shout out to my guy Andy Orso, who leads video at Framer. He posted a video about this. When you're making videos and you want like you want to do something different, like maybe you want to pan into a guy on a computer sitting in a villa at the beach with a margarita in his hand. Well, like to go shoot that for real, it's really expensive.
Yeah.
You can image prompt that in Midjourney and like hack that together in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So like that's incredible. So we're just starting to explore with that to just like, how do you take a product video and up level it? How do you make it way better? There's a lot of opportunity there. So that's what we use Midjourney for. We also use it for, images within like decks and things like that. We use ChatGPT mostly for summarization. So this is where I think LLMs are really powerful. We get, like I mentioned, thousands of people coming to my webinars, thousands of people coming to our daily live trainings, thousands of people leaving comments and engaging on Apollo Academy. We suck all of that data into a spreadsheet and then have ChatGPT summarize it or bring us out the themes. So work that would have taken forever for a person to do, it can do in 5-10 minutes or less, right? Really powerful for us to like pull together the threads. We do this also with like, a webinar chat. We might get 2,000 messages in a webinar that we do. So we can't, like if I'm doing the webinar, like I see the chat, but it's just like, I can't keep up with it. Yeah. So to understand like what are the common threads that people had questions about or we didn't dig into, so we use that. Now Descript is a tool that we use for video recording and transcription. And what's really cool about Descript is like we do a lot of interviewing customers or thought leaders or partners, and we just like do the recording in Zoom or whatever, throw the recording into Descript, it spits out a transcript, and then we can just like highlight parts of the transcript that we like and pull a video out based on the transcript, not from a timeline editor.
Yeah.
So Descript's really powerful there. So we use it, throughout our work stream. I don't think that, at least for us, it's not to a point now where like, AI is not pumping out content for us. It's a tool in the toolkit.
Makes sense. I think that's the way to use it as well. I mean, a lot of people have been using just generative AI as a service, particularly. Yeah. It took us a while. Like we were one of the earliest users of GPT-3 globally, right? It took us a while to kind of build AI products, shut them down, only to realize that AI needs to have a means to an end. I mean, it is just not a point blank. You use it as service, basically. You kind of use it more for augmenting the speed of your people overall. I always use this analogy. When Grammarly kind of came to the world, every editor thought their jobs are gone.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, Grammarly today is the best friend of editors. What Grammarly is doing is effectively making their lives easier. I mean, what I used to edit earlier, say in a couple of hours, now I can edit in, say, half an hour. Basically, that's the optimization. That's the power of AI. Particularly, I think you guys are using it the right way. So that's a great case study for anyone, any marketing teams to even understand in large setups like these how to use AI. Right.
Yeah.
I want to touch base a small bit on this advent of and some flavors of B2C marketing coming into the B2B world.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be very honest. I spend a good amount of time in New York and the Bay Area, right? I get to see a lot more flavor of the New York marketing coming into the tech companies over here.
Yeah.
Apollo is also being one of them, at least from a brand angle side of it, right? Just wanting to get a sense around, and I know the reason behind it. The reason is broadly, at the end of it, you're selling to consumers. It is the individual you are selling to, not the company always, right?
Sure.
How do you foresee that part of it from the lens of a creativity, content, always on content, full funnel content? Because now you cannot be just saying, I want to write one thought leadership piece of content every week and then it'll get distributed over the week. And no one is going to wait for your piece of content.
No.
Right? So how do you look at that flavor of always on marketing, the B2C of the world coming into B2C? B2B side.
So the first thing that stands out to me and the thing that we've indexed on Apollo is like the use of vertical video. So B2C has been on this for years because Instagram and TikTok, it's all vertical video. And like if you want to sell a B2C product, like those are your platforms, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I would say there's a second part of it, which is like if you're making placements yourself as a company, vertical video is your place. But if you want to build awareness for your product, influencer marketing has been huge in B2C.
Yeah.
And it's growing and growing, a lot in B2B. Apollo plays in both of those spaces. So how do I see that growing? Like, I think two things are going to happen. One, you're going to have to, if you're running ads, you're going to have to turn over creative really frequently. So that means that for us, at least, one of the reasons I built a video team, and I think this is going to be more popular, like historically, most companies outsource video. And I don't know if you guys do video, Pepper. Yeah. That can work. But when you enter a space where you have to turn around a high volume of creative, if I'm working with an agency, just managing the agency takes it's a really tough job. It takes a lot of back and forth. I've got a video team in-house. I've got a head of video. I can just send them a list. Here's what I need. It's just a Slack message, right? And he's like, got it. Like we have our way of working kind of established, and the agency, like the in-house agency, can turn that around really fast. So I think that's going to be more popular. It's just like indexing on vertical video in general. B2B companies, if you want to play in this space, you've got to do that. The second thing is what I was saying about influencer marketing. Like you've got to, as a B2B company, this is where thought leadership is going. Thought leadership has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Now it's influencer marketing, right? You have to do two things. One, you have to cultivate influencers internally. So to your point, the old playbook doesn't work. Just here's a thought leadership piece, let me put it out. You have to be an active thought leader where your customers' eyeballs are.
Yeah.
So if you're not on LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok or wherever your audience is, if you're marketing to older folks, maybe you're on Facebook, if you're not there, they don't see you. So to be a thought leader, you have to be influential. You have to be an influencer internally. And then the second thing you have to do is you have to have relationships with the ecosystem of influencers in your space externally. And you've got to find a way to make that compelling for them. So one thing that happens in B2C that works really well is affiliate marketing, right? I'm an influencer, and there's two sides to affiliate marketing. They get paid up front to make the content. They get paid on the back end for any business they drive.
Yeah.
So now they're super incentivized to promote your product. That's coming to B2B.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean these are more verticalized channels that have become more. I don't think they were absent in B2B. It is just that the way of working has changed across these channels particularly.
Yeah.
Like you said, thought leadership is very close to influencer marketing. Affiliate marketing over there was more like the commission agent partner model over here, right? So they're equivalents of each other. But I think what people have realized more often is the always on thing has to be there because it cannot be a one-off thing.
No.
Like as a B2B company doesn't mean you need to create less amount of content, basically. Not at all.
No.
In this case. It's always more.
It's always more.
In fact, it's always more because all the content you do is important.
Yeah, I mean, it used to, I think like LinkedIn is a good example. You used to be able to post on LinkedIn and get traction from that post for a week or 2 weeks. It's literally down to like 3 or 4 days now. So, and you can see it. It's like you post, big spike in impressions.
And then plateau.
Plateau fall.
Yeah.
Used to be more of a, I don't know the right mathematical term, but more of a sloping curve that would go up slowly over time and kind of stay high. Doesn't happen anymore.
Doesn't happen
and
anymore.
The platforms are doing this intentionally. They want more content all the time.
No, that is super good, super good. Josh, one part we spoke to Josh the marketer,
Sure.
basically, right? I also want to speak to Josh the founder.
Okay.
You had a company, which I think is in legal space, basically. Not legal, I would
accounting.
say. Accounting space, right? Successful exit from that.
Yeah.
Another company, failed founder.
Yeah.
In this case.
Yep.
If you were to kind of put in these, and while speaking to you, I realize you have a very solid first principles thinking.
Okay.
because you were able to kind of, I mean, first principles is just a fancy word that the big consultings have kind of brought our heads, but broadly you have your basics right.
Sure.
That's the reason why you came into a company like an Apollo, challenged the norm of the webinar things that you were saying, right? I can understand that basically. If you just go back to the entrepreneurship days, right, for you, what has been some core set of learnings that have kind of changed you as a person? And I feel failed startups do that to people, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to kind of point some learnings out, and I don't know if those are relevant to marketing or not.
Yeah.
If not, then also please mention it. But over to you for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking back now, like I knew when I was doing Spot Me, which is the business I had that failed, I knew when I was doing it that there was a good chance I would fail. Mm-hmm. Everybody told me I was probably going to fail, and I did it anyway because I felt like I was going to grow, and I didn't know exactly like how I would grow, and it didn't pay off right away. Like that next job I landed was, candidly, like I made less money and I was the lowest person on the totem pole. That experience paid off over the course of the next 5 years. And like exponentially.
The compounding
happened really quickly. So in terms of what I learned or, what I would share, there is so much value in doing everything yourself. And that was probably like the thing I enjoyed the most about my time as an entrepreneur was, and the thing that's paid off the most since then, I started so we did the accounting company, really successful. I owned half of it. Like I did all the sales and all of the marketing, bring in the clients and manage the customers. And my business partner did all of the back end, all of the bookkeeping, the accounting, delivering the product. That partnership worked really well. And after we sold the company, when I moved on, like first I'll pause on that. Doing the whole funnel of you're doing the sales, you're also doing the marketing. Like I built the website. I wrote every word of copy. We put out an ebook. I had only 100 people download the ebook. 40 of them became customers. So that was my first real experience of like B2B content marketing, right? I did all of it. I hired the designer. I was like the salesperson. I closed the deals. I brought it all in. Seeing the full funnel top to bottom as a one-person show, incredibly valuable. That almost nobody, if you don't have an experience as an entrepreneur, if like you come up in working as an employee, you're not going to get that experience. And it has made me so dangerous. Like I just have knowledge and expertise that other people just do not have. So that was really valuable. And I would highly recommend to anyone that like, if you have the opportunity to do that, go do everything, like do it, because it's going to pay off. Whether that experience works out or not, like it's going to make you dangerous. The failed founder experience I had, I learned a lot there in a lot of different ways. Like first, I learned a lot about that space. Like I dove into lending and micro lending and like, why is it that if you're broke, the only place you can get a loan is a payday loan, and that payday loan has a 400% interest rate? Why is that? And it turns out like I went and read the laws. At most states, every state has different legislation around this, but I went and read, I think something like 16 different legal statutes across the country of like, why is this the way this is structurally? That was like that was a crazy experience that was like really eye-opening to me. It helped me understand the way that America works, like as a model. It's like you've got these businesses who donate to these politicians, who get this legislation written,
Yeah.
who start a company on it and like create a monopoly around it. And like that is real. That has happened and, you know, continues to happen.
Peak capitalism.
Big capitalism with
Yeah.
a big B. So, but also that was my first experience building software. And what I've learned since then, I did a stint 3 months at Apollo where I was leading our product growth team as well. So I've continued to build software, and I built my company Backlit Comics, which is a software platform. What I'll tell marketers is something that most marketers, like I think a lot of marketers run into problems at companies getting the resources that they need. People have a hard time understanding that what you want to spend, how much on a video, you want to spend how much on an asset. I can tell you, having done it, making really good content is just as hard as making software. It's just as collaborative. It's just as hard. And if you don't believe me as you're listening to this, let me just point something out to you. How much money does an Avengers movie make? One Avengers movie makes more money than most tech companies in their entire history. It's a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. It makes more profit than almost any tech company. Most tech companies don't make any profit at all. It involves thousands of people. That is a piece of content. That's the bar, right? So we have this there's this weird perception, and having done both, like there's been this weird perception that like software is really hard to build and like content should be easy and cheap. And you've got to understand that like, actually no, really good content and the process of making really good content is very similar to the process of making software.
Yeah.
They're just different expressions of the same kind of end result, right? Like the same outcome. So what I learned, I would say, from all of those was like, what I took with me was when I land in a new situation, to the extent that I can, I try and do everything myself, top to bottom. And that gives me a command of the data, command of the processes, like an understanding of the customer and of the market that is really, really valuable. And then the second thing that I've kind of taken is like understanding the value of taking risks. And even when the risk doesn't pay out, the learnings from the risk is going to pay out to the next thing.
The compounding effect.
Exactly.
So broadly what he said is, one, the feeling of commitment and ownership, basically, across the full funnel, because you're able to see top to bottom, all ownership is on you, anything goes wrong, which as an employee you're never able to see that through.
Yep.
I think dangerous is not the right word, but it's more ferocious. And
Sure.
I can when I speak to you, I feel that across. I think you got the right to also do that, because now you've made decent amount of success with what you're doing in your roles right now, right? So it does. Second part you say with the left brain thinking of knowing numbers really well, because you ought to kind of any analytical thinking that you need to know the data, the numbers, that way down, which I think a lot of creative brains lack.
Yeah.
I always keep on saying this way that a filmmaker maybe or may not become a mathematician,
Sure.
but a mathematician,
Could become a filmmaker.
if decides to watch a lot of movies,
Yeah.
can make a filmmaker.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the second part. I'm just taking that away from you.
Yep.
And the third part that you mentioned is the ability to not say no to something unless you've tried it,
Yeah.
which is broadly on the risks part. But like I really marry that to the initial piece that you said when you asked for this webinar thing. Everyone at Apollo said it won't work. It did.
It
Right?
did.
I mean that's the most amazing thing I've seen. A company doing one session literally 2 times a day. It is phenomenal that
Thank
way
you.
down, right?
Yeah.
So because effectively you're trying to get 50,000 users every year, 50,000 new users every year. Maybe say $50 a year if they pay you that. Even if that like $50 a year is nothing in that case, that's good amount of revenue. It's any small SaaS company revenue here in Bay Area, right?
Yeah,
So-
and I'll share the data. Like somebody who comes to that training is 7 times more likely to become a paying customer. So I think that's like there's a lot of preconceived notions anywhere you go about what's going to work and what isn't going to work. And unless you're willing to just do the work yourself.
You break the glass
Yeah.
ceiling, right? So that ferociousness is pretty
Yeah,
evident.
and that's what I mean by dangerous. I'm a nice guy. I'm not a dangerous
I
person.
get it.
But,
I mean, what I meant by that is that ferociousness
Sure,
that comes
yeah.
in with it, because you got to kind of say, I'm going to do it and I'm going to prove it, and it is proved.
Right.
Out of that.
Or it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
And I'm going to learn a lot from it not working out.
It's
you know?
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay that way. No, this has been phenomenal. I think, Josh, thanks for answering all of these questions.
Of course.
right?
Thanks for having me.
But I have this last one small round for you.
Okay.
This is to know. So we saw Josh the marketer.
Yeah.
Then we saw Josh the entrepreneur.
Okay.
I don't have a third word. We'll see Josh the person. Right?
Here
This is completely Josh in the current moment, right?
Sure.
So I have a quick set of rapid fire for you.
Okay.
Right. These rapid fire questions are anything that comes on the top of your head, just blurt it out.
Okay.
I think we'll go this way.
I'm going to take a sip.
Okay,
Make sure I'm
perfect.
ready.
So, okay, favorite movie?
Donnie Brasco.
Super. What's the last book or podcast that you've read or heard?
I listen to the Economist podcast. I love Checks and Balance.
You've heard the recent episode?
They do a new one every day, but Checks and Balance I listen to
Checks and
every
Balances, you've seen the
Yeah,
last one. Perfect. If you get a chance to start a company again today,
Yeah.
would you do that?
week. Media business, yeah.
You would do that?
Yeah.
Super. If you get a chance to sell your comic book business to someone, who would it be?
I don't think I'd sell it.
You'd not sell it for sure?
No.
That's more a passion thing for you?
It's passion, sure, but it's also understanding, like, okay, I mean, there's probably a number that I would sell it for.
Yeah.
I think the most valuable thing in the world is intellectual property.
Okay,
So,
let me
yeah.
reframe the question that way.
Sure.
If there's one company in the world
Yeah.
who you would want to collaborate with
Yeah.
that business, what company would it be?
Disney.
It would be Disney?
I think so.
Oh, super.
Yeah.
What is that one thing people hate about you in your team?
One thing people hate about me,
In your team?
I don't know if people hate about my team. Well, here's what I'd say.
No,
Yeah.
people in the team hate about you. Is there nothing you have to think so much
no,
about it?
It's so many things. How do I pick just one? I would probably say I can be abrasive. I expect excellence, and I want it quickly.
I get it. I lie somewhere closer to you. So we know the pain of it.
Common traits for
Common
people like
traits.
us. Yeah.
Ferociousness coming in. And I have two more.
Okay.
Right? One, if you get a chance to be an influencer today, would you do that?
I'm interested in being influential, but not being an influencer.
Why so? Sorry, I'm just going off. But
Yeah, sure. So I think like there's baggage that comes with this concept of being an influencer. Also, there's an expectation maybe that you sell your time or your endorsement or whatever. I don't care about that at all. I'm interested in delivering value. Doing that will make me influential, if I do a good job. But as an influencer, as a guru or whatever, I don't care. I don't want to be that.
What are the 3 most used software tools that you use literally every single day, which might be like open on your tabs always?
Google Workspace. I mean, just all Google.
Except Google.
Oh man, I mean, Google's the one. Google's the one.
Yeah.
The tools that I use all day.
Or you use it too often?
I live in Google, like my email, Slack, Google Workspace, and Apollo. Outside of that, it's just a smattering. Like if I'm making content, I'm in Descript or I'm in Premiere or whatever. But yeah,
Shout out to Google for that.
shout out to Google. It's gotta give credit where credit is due.
Yeah. No, and last thing, what's the favorite holiday place?
My favorite holiday place? I have a really soft spot in my heart for the northern coast of California. So Mendocino and just everywhere basically between here and the Lost Coast is the most beautiful place in the world.
When have you been there last?
It's been too long. It's before my daughter was born. So
You need to go often now.
I'd love to. Yeah,
Of
love
course.
to take her.
Yeah, you remember me when you go next.
Okay, yeah.
Sure. But that has been a closure round. Thank you so much, Josh, for doing this. For
course.
people who are going to cold email him, don't call him Joshua. He's not going to respond to you. Professionally, he's called Josh, guys. But thank you for this. I think I know I'll have to kind of note down all things that I take away from this, to be very honest.
Thanks for having me.
You've had a guerrilla marketing that has worked for you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people kind of just dream of it. That leap of faith is important, but it's worked for you. So I think thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, and all the best for whatever you do.
Likewise.
Super.
All right.